Critics lauded him, he was adored on television, and millions of people loved him. However, Rock Hudson was concealing something that would permanently alter how others perceived him behind his notoriety. There was a disturbing silence around him as his condition deteriorated. Time passed and friends grew apart. In addition to being heartbreaking, what transpired in his last days was breathtaking. At last, the truth is revealed. You will be devastated by his life, his suffering, and the silent farewells. This is not merely a tale. You will cry as you read this last chapter, which you will never forget. Rock Hudson's last curtain call. Rock Hudson is one of the most recognizable characters in Hollywood, where elegance, charm, and glitz are highly prized. He possessed a commanding voice, an engaging appearance, and a smile that made people pay attention. He represented romance and tenacity for many years, but the world was shocked by his unexpected demise at the age of 59. On a calm Wednesday, the adored actor, who was admired by millions, died. In the end, he passed away from AIDS, an illness that at the time was associated with secrecy, fear, and uncertainty. Prior to his illness diagnosis, Rock Hudson was well known. He had already made a significant effect in the entertainment business, and was well known for his performing roles in TV series and films. He bravely faced his disease in the final year of his life. He turned into a representation of something more than mere fame. He became the spokesperson for a condition that was rarely discussed. Despite initially concealing his sickness, Hudson had known since mid-1984 that he had been diagnosed. He made the decision to keep acting rather than taking a break. He returned to television as a star of Dynasty, a popular program. He produced 10 episodes and consistently turned up for work, in spite of his deteriorating condition. Few people were aware of the difficulties he was dealing with behind the scenes. It wasn't until the summer of 1985 that the public started to comprehend Hudson's difficulties. He had changed in appearance and been sicker by then. His intention to travel to Paris for experimental treatment was audacious. In the hopes of fighting the illness, he traveled to the American hospital there. But he flew back to the United States after only a week. He arrived in Los Angeles to attend UCLA Medical Center for further treatment. He made a very personal decision during this period. Once a very private person, Hudson made the decision to come out as having AIDS. AIDS was feared, poorly understood, and mostly unknown at the time. Individuals who had the illness frequently kept their pain to themselves, but Rock Hudson helped transform that quiet into conversation. By disclosing his ailment, many others were able to speak up as a result. The reaction was prompt. People began sending consoling letters, cards, and notes from all around the world. Longtime supporters expressed their affection and support. Support came from colleagues in the entertainment sector. Hollywood, which is well known for its glitz and celebrity, changed its emphasis to AIDS research funding and awareness raising. Hudson was honored with a fundraiser. There were performances, impassioned remarks, and celebrities at the occasion. But the primary objective was clear. During the evening, $1 million was raised for AIDS research. Hudson also gave a substantial $250 gift. His voice was not as loud, but by standing alongside others, it was still having a big influence. He didn't want to become unwell and become famous for it. Hudson thought that his fight could change the world, even if his health was failing. He wished for empathy, sympathy, and support for individuals facing comparable challenges. People were devastated when they learned of his death. Messages of tribute were left by a wide range of people, including politicians and moviegoers. Hudson had starred in a film alongside President Ronald Reagan, who was devastated. In addition to his acting prowess, he recalled Hudson as a nice and compassionate person. Nancy Reagan, the First Lady, had contacted Hudson while he was in the hospital, and was also depressed. Hudson's death upset Elizabeth Taylor, who was close to him and eventually became a powerful voice in the fight against AIDS. She conveyed her feelings with a great deal of resolve, love, and despair. She became committed to fighting the illness that killed Hudson too soon after his death. Hudson died quietly and peacefully at his Beverly Hills home while he slept. He had no close family, therefore the only people by his side were his personal crew. His body was cremated after his death, without any elaborate rituals or public displays. A man who had made significant contributions to the world was quietly said to be leaving. But that day was not the end of Rock Hudson's tale. Change was sparked by his courage. Others were able to relate their stories because of his candor. When Rock Hudson was unable to conceal himself, Rock Hudson's true sexual orientation might never have come to light if he had fallen ill in Los Angeles, rather than Paris. His ailment would have been carefully hidden, and maintained a secret. Everyone wouldn't have known the true cause of his illness. His secret would never have come to light. Plans were already in motion. Hudson had decided how he wanted to spend his last days, because he was aware that his time was running out. He wanted to be alone and peaceful, away from the attention he had been getting for years. He wanted to keep his condition a secret and did not want anyone to see him in anguish. Although it was simple, the plan was well planned. The plan was to move him to a quiet Palm Desert condo. Like a hospice, his closest friends and family would provide a private, secure space for him. He will be cared after by a small team of male nurses who had vowed to keep everything confidential. They were prepared to remain unnoticed. His cause of death would be changed to something else, such as liver failure or a heart attack, if the time came. Anything but the truth. There would be silence. No AIDS talk, no evidence that Hudson was gay, no controversy, no gossip, no damaged reputation. That was the strategy. It may have worked if he had fallen ill at home. However, the outcome was different. When Rock Hudson suddenly passed out while in Paris, he was taken to the American hospital immediately, where a dramatic change in circumstances took place. His medical condition was unexpected, and the hospital's doctors and staff were furious that they weren't ready to hide it. At the time, the hospital had a stringent policy that prohibited them from treating AIDS patients, and they did not want to be associated with the disease. After they found out about Hudson's illness, they put him in a difficult situation. Either they would make the public announcement on his behalf, or he personally would. After 35 years of hard work to establish a positive image that people looked up to, Hudson found himself in a difficult situation. On TV, he was shown as a tall, powerful, attractive man, who was charming and faultless. His admirers did not associate him with the stigma and ignorance surrounding AIDS. Rather, they saw him as a romantic leading man. Rock Hudson feared AIDS very much. He thought it was unpleasant and was afraid it would damage his career and reputation. If people found out, he feared they would no longer love him. He decided to conceal his sickness as a result. But he was no longer in charge of the choice. He met with his secretary and publicist to go over a prepared statement. They read it out loud, which was direct and truthful. When he heard it, Hudson said nothing for a minute, then consented to carry it out. He had been hiding the truth for a long time. Nobody could foresee the reactions of people everywhere. Everyone was terrified of a bad response. Rock Hudson was shocked by what transpired next, though. Everything changed when the news broke. Suddenly his name was everywhere. Yet he got a ton of support rather than condemnation. He was not abandoned. They supported him. He even appeared on Newsweek's cover. He received messages from thousands of admirers that were full of love, support, and encouragement. There was warmth and concern instead of animosity. It calmed him. Gradually, Hudson began to experience a sensation of relief that had been absent for a while. The terror that had gripped him for so long started to fade. The world was different, he realized. Or maybe things were just starting to shift. What he believed would damage his reputation was now giving others hope. His initiatives led to more candid discussions about AIDS. For the first time, the illness attracted considerable attention. Research funding rose. People began to listen more intently. All of this began with a reality that was meant to stay secret. Hudson had no intention of being brave. He didn't want to be a figure. He only wanted his final moments to be peaceful. Life, though, can take unforeseen turns. His story changed course in his final weeks, changing the way the world perceived AIDS and its victims. Towards the end of his life, Sarah Davidson spent a lot of time with Rock Hudson and witnessed the extent of his suffering. She spoke to him, heard him out, and saw the sorrow in his eyes. She described his fear in her book about him. She also expressed his gratitude for the unanticipated love and support he received from individuals all across the world. Hudson concealed who he really was for many years. He was the perfect man when he was in the spotlight. He feared the repercussions of telling the truth when he wasn't in public. But he made the decision to be truthful in his final moments. Unexpectedly, this new knowledge freed him rather than destroyed him. There is more to the tale of Rock Hudson than just a well-known actor. It tells the story of a man who tried to keep up a particular self-image, but found that being honest was what made him strongest. His genuineness cleared the path for others, during a time when being sincere may have disastrous repercussions. Being a hero was not his goal, but sometimes the people who end up being heroes are the ones who initially didn't want attention. In his final days, Hudson endured a great deal of suffering, yet he also discovered unanticipated comfort. The secret life was very good at hiding. In Hollywood, Rock Hudson was a well-liked actor. His charm and amorous on-screen roles were well known. He starred in numerous romantic comedies that won over women's hearts all around the world. Off-screen, though, Rock had a different personality. His life was full with sorrow and hidden struggles that were only subsequently made public. In order to uncover the hidden facets of Rock Hudson's life, author Sarah Davidson worked very hard. She portrayed a man in her novel who lived his entire life hiding who he really was. At a time when Hollywood disapproved of homosexuality, he was gay, so he played the part of someone he wasn't. He meticulously created a misleading picture for the public, which they firmly accepted. He was a totally different person behind the scenes, and nobody was aware of it. Rock and the media had an arrangement whereby the latter would not question him personally, and he would not give them any grounds to probe deeper. He maintained his public persona by being silent, but he also avoided contact with the media, since he did not have complete faith in them. Although he enjoyed their peaceful moments, he also thought the whole thing was annoying. He didn't want his sickness to be sugarcoated when it was announced. Even if it surprised people, he wanted it to be public. He seemed to have nothing left to protect. In her book, Sarah Davidson exposed other unspoken facts about Rock that he had long concealed. One big question remained unanswered. What caused him to get AIDS? Even Davidson herself admitted that this was an unresolved riddle. She stated that Rock might have had the illness for a number of years, perhaps even up to 5 years, before the physicians finally identified it. This indicated that, at a time when little was known about the sickness, he was among its first sufferers. Rock was shocked and incredulous to learn that he had AIDS. He reflected on his life, wondering why he had experienced this. There was no one else with AIDS that he knew. Confusion was increased when his boyfriend, Mark Christian, tested negative. Rock, however, showed bravery by warning his new partners about possible exposure in anonymous letters. This was a courageous and responsible action. Some believe that Rock might have contracted AIDS while he was in San Francisco, even as he struggled with his diagnosis. He visited some of the more adventurous gay pubs in the city, where people frequently engage in dangerous activity. That's where something might have happened. Davidson, though, refused to divulge any details on the trip. She chose to remain silent when questioned directly, saying she was unable to respond. Davidson chose to omit certain details of Rock's tale from her book, not because she didn't know about them, but because she thought they weren't important. She had access to private information about Rock's romantic life, his interests, and his partners, but she decided not to share those specifics. Despite being truthful in her narrative, she wished to protect his dignity and privacy. But not everyone agreed with her. Some others think that she had gone too far. She was publicly chastised by some well-known people who said she had failed Rock. Davidson held fast to her convictions in spite of this. She explained that her book was the product of real conversations with Rock and his closest friends and family. She wanted to show him who he really was, not hurt him. She sought to reveal the person concealed from the public view, going beyond his celebrity persona. Davidson had no intention of making Rock feel ashamed or degraded. She merely wished to make him more understandable to others. She wanted to bring to light the loneliness, anxiety, and grief that Rock had been dragging around for a long time, aspects of his life that none of his fans knew existed. Even though Rock made an effort to conceal these difficulties from the public, his unintentional public persona as an AIDS patient contributed to a greater understanding of the illness. An issue that had been neglected for a long time was brought to light by this unexpected attention. Rock Hudson never wanted the world to know who he really was, but his narrative became a landmark event after his death. He kept a secret all of his life. However, his candor ultimately served as an inspiration to a great number of people. The full narrative of a man who was loved by many, but harbored a great deal of pain, was told in Davidson's book. Worried that if his truth came out, he would be shunned, Rock's transparency sparked compassion rather than rejection. This resulted in more candid conversations about AIDS, and the understanding that anyone, even a beloved person like Rock Hudson, might be affected by it. This change of viewpoint resulted in substantial transformation. His tale serves as a warning that profound suffering can be experienced by even the most cheerful people. Someone may be quietly hurting even while they are being applauded. Rock Hudson made the world happier, more beautiful, and more romantic. He also provided awareness, bravery, and humanity in his final days. His narrative continues to inspire people today. It's more than just a well-known actor. It has to do with our common humanity. It's about enduring hardship and pain, but it's also about finding the truth before it's too late. Rock Hudson will live on in memory as a result. The private, beautiful heart. On screen, Rock Hudson was a charming and romantic actor, but off-screen, he lived a secret existence and concealed his actual identity. For many years, he made every effort to keep his private life out of the public view. But those who knew him well were aware of his tender, loving, and romantic disposition. Extreme or adventurous lifestyles were not Hudson's style. In his private life, he did not act strangely or sinisterly. Rather, he was tender, affectionate, and even sweet. People who knew him likened his behavior to that of a romance movie character. He would become excited like a teenager whenever he met someone new and excitedly tell his pals how he felt. He was searching for the person who would be his ideal mate, his match. He was looking for Mr. Right all the time, never giving up on love, especially in the face of failed relationships. In the end, the thing that hurt him the most might have been love or even trust. He received a diagnosis of AIDS, a condition that affected his life forever. His infection's precise etiology is yet uncertain. One reasonable explanation is really tragic. He had open-heart surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in 1981. The dangers of AIDS transmission from blood transfusions were not fully recognized at the time. A considerable number of LGBT patients were served by the West Hollywood Hospital. There is a chance he got the infection there. This theory is just as likely as any other. Knowing that he was running out of time, Hudson wanted to tell his life narrative in his final weeks. For the final 27 days of his life, he invited a writer to stay at his house and spend time with him. He would sit with the writer every day to listen and learn. Additionally, Hudson urged his buddies to help him tell others who he really is. He desired for people to see past his celebrity and comprehend the true self of the performer. There were days that were harder than others. His mental clarity did not deteriorate, but his physical strength did. Those who claimed he became confused near the end did not see it happen. Those who visited him observed that he remained cognitively sharp. He would come downstairs on good days, chat with visitors, ask for food, and even grin. During those periods, he stayed loyal to himself. The author made sure he could accurately convey the story before starting to write the book. He conferred with Mark Miller, Hudson's devoted secretary, about facts, recollections, and names. They came up with a list of possible interview subjects together. The emphasis was on writing a book in an ethical manner rather than just writing a book. Instead than spreading rumors, the goal was to tell the real tale of a kind and passionate man whose life had long been kept under wraps. Despite Rock Hudson's long-standing notoriety in the entertainment business, there aren't many stories that are good about him. Because he frequently came across as reserved and pre-written, he was not recognized for doing interesting interviews. He lacked warmth and genuineness in the majority of his interviews. The one exception, though, was when he opened up to a professor at Southern Methodist University for a long oral history project. Perhaps he thought it wasn't for quick publicity, or perhaps he felt at ease there. On this infrequent occasion, he was open and lengthy in his speech. He wasn't who he seemed on paper. He was someone else entirely in person. People gravitated toward him because he was upbeat and had a catchy chuckle. In person, his friendliness was more apparent than in writing. He was most relaxed and open when he was drinking. Therefore, several suggested spending time with him to see his genuine nature. His public persona was carefully constructed. For many years, he kept his private affairs confidential. He tried not to draw attention to himself. He was protected from public scrutiny by his crew. His need for privacy was recognized by the media. An unspoken contract existed between the press and Hudson. Although there were rumors, they were never verified. He never disclosed any information concerning his private life. He liked to live this way, quietly, out of the public eye. Hudson didn't seek excitement and led a modest private life. He wanted comfort, affection, and someone to come home to. Like most individuals, Hudson didn't want to startle anyone or attract notice. He preferred real love instead, and those who truly understood him were drawn to him because of this trait. He got a rare chance to be candid and transparent in his final days. He may have stopped hiding things for the first time. He talked openly about his feelings, his past, and his goals. Even though he knew he didn't have much time, he handled it with respect and honesty. Despite its tragic ending, the life narrative of Rock Hudson is a kind one. There aren't any scandals, strange behavior, secrets, or quiet power. In the last years of his life, Rock Hudson dealt with many personal issues in a calm and solitary manner. He had been a well-liked Hollywood star, but as time went on, he lost his prominence and felt the effects profoundly. Hudson, who was respected by the business and adored by fans, was once the biggest star at the box office. However, his popularity waned, and his name gradually faded from the public eye due to the rise of new actors and shifting fashions. Rock did not like the change. Being a well-known actor had been his life's ambition. It was more than just a job. It characterized him. He felt out of place when he watched newbies like Dustin Hoffman gain popularity on TV. He found it incomprehensible that viewers were now praising performers who did not conform to the stereotypical idea of a movie star. For Rock, beauty had always been important. He was skilled at captivating both the camera and his followers, and he had never taken an unfavorable picture. He thought these new actors were too ordinary. Although they were talented, they did not fit his ideal of what a star ought to look like. Something unexpected happened in the 1960s. Rock Hudson began to flourish as an actor, even though it appeared like his career was coming to an end. His performance deepened and revealed his brilliance in a new way. But attractive leading males like him were no longer in demand in the entertainment world. Rock found it difficult to adjust to the way the world was changing. A new career as a filmmaker never piqued his curiosity. He stayed committed to acting, while others focused on producing or developing their ventures. He didn't want to make movies or direct them. No matter how big or little the job, all he wanted to do was act. His calling and passion was acting. His passion for Hollywood persisted even as his health deteriorated. He made a farewell cameo on the popular television program Dynasty. He was already fighting a severe illness at that point. His health issues made him feel weak and feeble, yet he was determined to keep working. He thought he still looked as young as ever when he watched himself on screen. On the other hand, his declining health was devastating to those who knew him. Even though he was clearly ill, he still showed up and gave it his all. Alongside his close friend Doris Day, Rock appeared on a discussion show. For many reasons, this was a heartwarming occasion. He had been living off liquid nourishment for 2 months by this time, and his body was weak and hurting. He sat beside Doris, exchanging tender moments and a gentle smile despite his poor condition. Rock was having trouble keeping up with Doris, who seemed full of life and vitality. But everyone who watched could see how close they were. His soft pat on her face represented the close bond they had developed over the years. Despite the difficulties, Rock wanted to keep his sickness a secret, and kept it that way for as long as possible. Even in his latter days, he was unwilling to reveal any secrets, because he had a history of keeping things to himself. One of these mysteries was his sexual orientation, which was never publicly acknowledged but was frequently conjectured. Although Rock's friends and coworkers were aware of his sexual orientation, he never publicly discussed it. At the time, it was dangerous for a star to be upfront about his sexual orientation, and it might have destroyed his career. As a result, Rock maintained a secretive personal life, and meticulously created a popular public persona. A lot of people wanted to know about his mother. They pondered whether she knew, and whether she ever asked. There is a heartwarming story that offers a hint. She liked to play bridge with her pals, and another woman brought up the subject during one game. She asked whether Rock was gay. All his mother said was that she already knew. The fact that she was unable to remember the names of his companions grieved her. But she carried on with the game as though it were perfectly normal. This shows a softer side to Rock's personality. There were moments of calm, compassion, and unspoken support, despite the stress and hidden hardships. Nevertheless, Rock was never able to be himself in public. He had been hiding behind his superstar persona for far too long. He was praised and loved because of his fame, but it also limited him. Working on a movie was one particularly unforgettable experience. Rock hesitated as the moment demanded a kiss. How do you feel about Hudson? Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your opinions in the comments section. Make sure to click on the video that is displayed on your screen before you go.